Hi everyone, I'm showing you Frankenstein, at least that's what I call it because I've done a lot of work on this club. The wood is not so good, it's not holding up. I've put in multiple pegs and glue to try to piece things together, and all those areas have actually held up, but I keep getting new cracks. So the wood is not so good. Um, People have suggested putting in a leather insert, and I guess I could do that, but it's not the easiest thing because you have a curve coming this way, you have a curve coming this way, and when you harden the leather, which is thicker than this, it's not, in my opinion, not that easy to get exactly correct. Probably somebody out there knows how to do it. I'm a little afraid of kind of ruining the club. I'd have to cut into it. I'd have to make some kind of curved cut on the top here to get that in there, I believe. Or I guess I could lay it on top and redo the horn and kind of feather it in at the edge here. But somebody knows a good way to put a full leather insert in there, let me know. Now I've seen in the books some partial inserts of the leather, but not going all the way across like the more traditional leather. So you'll see like maybe I guess for the bathing spoons and short spoons with a lot of loft, you'll see kind of these shorter pieces of leather if they do anything with it. So I went a different route, and these are end grain pieces of wood. This center one is ash just because I had a piece already, and these are hickory. So I'm not the first one to do this. There was a long-nosed club maker who worked all the way from the 1860s to the 1890s, but in the 1890s, after the long-nose era, he William Fryer was his name. He started putting in these end grain dowels. Now I don't know how successful he was because he went out of business about a year after he came up with that invention. I don't think he patented the invention. The next guy to patent it was a guy named Charles Jacobus, and he sold that patent to, or maybe worked for Spalding, but Spalding had that patent, and you'll see in this catalog. So what they did here was they drilled two holes on the side first, then a center hole, then inserted mahogany of all things, which isn't the hardest wood. But they also mentioned you could put weights in there as well, which kind of brings up an interesting thought. But these are end grain, and end grain tends to be much more impact resistant. And I'll show you an experiment. After that weight was dropped from about 4 feet, you could see the indentation on the face grain. Quite significant. Let's do the end grain test. Well, here's where the weight landed on the end grain of this oak, and it's barely detectable as a indentation. It's certainly about 1/3 or less than the face grain indentation. And when you see wooden mallets, at least wooden mallets that last, you'll be hitting on the end grain of the mallet. Now I have a mallet. This mallet here is all beat up because it's not end grain, and that you tend to not get that flaking. You get some indentation if you beat it real hard, but these side grain mallets tend to get really, or face grain mallets tend to get really beaten up. Then you might ask, why not just make the club head all with end grain? And my thought is you could do that with a wood that doesn't split very readily. But if you made it, let's say, of hickory or ash, which split very easily, I am afraid that they could split. Now, if you used beech, which doesn't split as easily, you might be able to get away with it. Apple also, woods like elm, which probably wouldn't be good for club making, they kind of have more interlock grain, as does dogwood, I guess. So you could probably get away with that. But you kind of have to, with the golf club heads, you want some kind of end grain on it. So ideal angle, I think, is this way, because you kind of have some end grain effect, but you're also not going to split the wood down along its grain. So that's why we don't typically do that. although you will see it sometimes. So no, this is not a directional aid, but it looks like one. So you'll see the 3 pegs here that I added, and these are the normal pegs. These are all pegs for the to hold the club together with all the cracks. So this is just an experimental thing. I'm just kind of learning as I go along. I added some masking fluid on those 3 pegs on the face, the end grain plugs, and I also put it on the horn. And you'll see how easy it is to prevent the black India ink from staining that. Did get in a little bit on that heel side of the one peg. But you can see it didn't get on the horn. You can just use a little piece of rubber to clean it up. And that masking fluid's applied with a fine paintbrush. And the finish is just some tung oil on those end grain pegs and then shellac the whole club.